Welcome to the draft. A land of opportunity awaits the men eager to bask in the glories of their hard work. Speaking of the draft, let me take a moment to talk about DraftKings, the sponsor of this video. Hockey playoffs are here, and it's my favorite time of year. Don't know about you, but I have a good feeling about Colorado and Washington in the first round. Take that as you will. Knowing my luck, do the exact opposite and you'll be good. In unrelated news, DraftKings Sportsbook offers same-game parlays, odds boosts, and so much more. Hell, if I've got a hunch on something, they even feature live betting. But if their sportsbook isn't available in your state, you can still join in with DraftKings Pick 6 and play for cash prizes. Here's your game plan. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the promo code UTREE, and all new customers can bet just $5 and receive $200 in bonus bets instantly. And this is only with DraftKings Sportsbook. Look, I love putting a few bucks down on the action, but please play responsibly. Do it for me. I feel like we all buried 2020 in an unmarked ditch and never talked about it again. Think of how wonderful it was back then. We'd slowly drink ourselves into a stupor over the words social distancing and quarantine. Has it really been 5 years since the shutdown? Or are we merely living in a simulation of what life was like back then? We're all in VR pods, aren't we? It's just like the Matrix. Roger Goodell still in his basement relaxing on his comfy leather chair. When the draft rolled around, it was the oasis in a time of last dances and marble races. As a result, the player outcomes got really, really fucky. Having most pro days canceled will do that. Behold the wreckage.
The Cincinnati Bengals select Joe Burrow, quarterback, LSU.
Since he hit rock bottom in 2019, but their relentless failure in the post-Marvin Lewis era allowed them to draft the local dream. Joe Burrow is an outstanding specimen, that doesn't need to be explained. But with Cincy's, shall we say, delayed responses in support, his career's mimicking Dan Marino. Elite quarterback, but doesn't have the horses around him to win a ring. I swear, if they waste Burrow's career over there will be hell to pay. It certainly won't be because of Smokin' Joe, though. He just went and had himself a generational season for the Bengals. Plus, he got paid an unbelievable sum to stay in the orange and black for a while to come. Will it guarantee him a victory cigar after a Super Bowl win? Not if Cincy keeps mangling things.
The Washington Redskins select Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State.
Chase Young's tale is one that's told repeatedly in the NFL. Injuries. They've destroyed his potential peak as an athlete. His outstanding rookie year would be the only promise he'd show. The FedEx ligament muncher claimed another ACL as a meal. At that point, his Washington career just went sideways. Flashes of what he was, but nothing consistent. After his fifth-year option was declined, he'd be shipped off to San Francisco as the final piece to a Super Bowl contending team. Chase did next to nothing paired with Nick Bosa. Then he'd fly off to New Orleans, where he'd treat more injuries and be a mere role player on the defense. It did get him extended there, at least. But for a guy who was hyped to be the next Myles Garrett, he's more Marcus Davenport. Bring the Redskins back. It's the only way we can revive him. It's fine.
The Detroit Lions select Jeff Okudah, defensive back, Ohio State.
If you had issue with me not calling Chase Young a bust, there's a reason why. He's not Jeff Okudah. Hyped as the next shutdown corner, his only highlight in the NFL was getting shut down by his position coach on the sidelines. He'd suffer a season-ending injury shortly thereafter. Rupturing your Achilles is pretty much a death sentence. And he wasn't very good to begin with. So underwhelming, he was traded to Atlanta for a 5th-round pick. Goes to show how little value he had. He frequently exposed on bad defenses and now mired his depth bouncing around the league. The good news is that it would get better for Detroit. Not so much for Okudah Matata.
The New York Giants select Andrew Thomas, tackle, Georgia.
Somewhere in the United States, there's a bold man flipping out over this with an army of plungers on his head. Andrew Thomas was probably the highest floor tackle in this draft, and he most certainly became that and then some. He's very good as a blindside blocker. All you need to explain why is how the Giants' offensive line went to shit after a season-ending injury last year. And again, New York's O-line isn't good to begin with. If it weren't for Thomas, it'd be even worse than it is. Blind Dave Gettleman found a nut. Amazing.
The Miami Dolphins select Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback, Alabama.
The legendary tank for Tua ended up succeeding, in spite of Stephen Ross's insistence on sabotaging the Dolphins. Was it worth it, Stephen? It cost you a first-round pick years down the line. Here's the thing with Tua. He's a solid quarterback, one of the most accurate passers in the game and perfect for a West Coast offense. Yet there are concerns. Plenty of them. He doesn't perform well in the cold. Tua turned the ball over, makes appearances at the worst possible times. Then there's the repeated concussions. It's disturbing as hell, and his career isn't the only thing in jeopardy. I'm honestly surprised he hasn't retired because of it yet, but more power to him. So was Tua a good pick? Yes. Is he gonna lead the Dolphins anywhere relevant? Who the fuck knows? The Tua versus Herbert wars will be fought on Twitter for years to come.
The Los Angeles Chargers select Justin Herbert, quarterback, Oregon.
After an awful 2019 campaign in Oregon, everyone and their mother was shitting on Herbert during the draft. Hell, I was one of them. But turns out Justin wasn't the problem. It was Mario Cristobal's offense. His rookie campaign with the Bolts was one of pants shitting. Dude can throw a football. Dude won Offensive Rookie of the Year for obvious reasons. But it unfortunately hasn't led to postseason success yet. Fitting that the last great Oregon QB before him was Dan Fouts. Herbert's becoming him and Phillip Rivers to this franchise. The eternal bridesmaid. The ultimate if. Hypotheticals out the wazoo. Blamed for all the woes of the Chargers in general. Even if most of them aren't his fault. The social media quarterback while having no social media presence whatsoever. Relax, guys. He's a fucking good player. He's just cursed with being anchored by Spanos. So does this mean communism works? Ish? Hypothetically, yes?
Carolina Panthers select Derek Brown, defensive tackle, Auburn.
No gripes here. Brown's a beast of a player that's one of the only things that make the Panthers defense anything passable. Look at how bad their team was after he suffered a season-ending injury after week 1 last year. He's the anchor of that Carolina D-line. Underrated as hell and should be a franchise cornerstone for a decade. Can we have him on the Steelers?
The Arizona Cardinals select Isaiah Simmons, linebacker, Clemson.
Jack of all trades, master of none. It's useful in many situations in the NFL, but not when you lack a true position on the field. Is he a box safety? An inside linebacker? Something else? There was tantalizing upside with Simmons out of college. He hasn't come close to realizing it. Isaiah started, sure, but he's not a game changer. Arizona didn't really develop him well, and they shipped him off to the G-Men after declining his 5th-year option. He was okay as a Giant-ish? He had his moments, but he wasn't a full-time starter. That ain't good for a top 10 pick on a bad defense. Now he sits as a free agent, waiting for his next call from an NFL team. He might be fighting for a job in training camp at this next stop.
The Jacksonville Jaguars select C.J. Henderson, defensive back, Florida.
Flashbacks of hell for Jags fans. The major gripe about CJ during the draft was his rather nonchalant approach to tackling. Turns out he also had problems with most other things at the NFL level. If you're a coverage specialist that can't cover, it's not looking good for you. When you're traded a year after being drafted for a backup tight end in a 5th, it's even worse. He'd play in Carolina, but it wasn't good. He'd have sparse moments, but he'd eventually lose his starting job and be forced out to free agency. The dude got cut by the Texans in training camp. Sure, they had a solid cornerback room, but that isn't good. He'd be snagged up by the Steelers, but didn't play thanks to injury. A huge disappointment through and through. All you had to do was catch the damn receiver, CJ.
The Cleveland Browns select Jedrick Wills, tackle, Alabama.
Trying to convert Wills from right to left tackle didn't really work as expected. The big problem is one that's plagued a good bit of the top 10 this year. The injury. Over the last 2 seasons, Jedrick's been derailed by a slew of them. To be fair, the whole Browns offensive line has. Until he can gain consistency, it's hard not to declare his career disappointing. Sitting as a free agent, we wait to see who calls him next. There's still time to revive his career, but you can't help but wonder what could have been. Perhaps he should have made fewer business decisions. It's alright, I guess.
The New York Jets select Mekhi Becton, tackle, Louisville.
You thought Wills had injury issues? Becton literally couldn't stay on the field as a Jet. Durability was his major flaw in New York. And again, everything that organization touches dies, so it's par for the course. He didn't experience true health until the 2023 season. And by that point, the Jets had taken a nosedive due to Aaron Rodgers' injury. As a result, New York declined his 5th-year option and gave him a one-way ticket to free agency. It might have been the best thing to happen to him. Going to the Eagles and converting to guard may have saved his career. Not only healthy, but effective as their right guard. Plus, he got a well-earned ring for the trouble. A strong season has gotten him a contract with the Chargers, but with his lack of sample size, I can't call him revived just yet. We'll check back in a year or two and reassess from there.
The Las Vegas Raiders select Henry Ruggs, wide receiver, Alabama.
You fucking idiot. You were in the middle of your breakout and you pull that fucking shit. Congratulations, Henry. You're rotting in jail and an innocent woman and her dog are dead. All because you couldn't call an Uber. Fuck you.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Tristan Wirfs, tackle, Iowa.
This pick went a little better than the last few. Wirfs has arguably become the best tackle in the class. And Tampa Bay's cheap trade-up was more than justified with his performance. Four-time All-Pro, a staple of the Bucs O-line and on a Hall of Fame trajectory. I think this is an easy call.
The San Francisco 49ers select Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle, South Carolina.
One thing I've never understood about the Niners is that their day 2 and 3 picks are usually outstanding, but they keep whiffing in the first round. Javon Kinlaw was supposed to be the DeForest Buckner replacement. San Francisco had to keep looking. Over the years, Kinlaw struggled to find starting time in the Niners and eventually had his fifth-year option decline. That being said, he did have modest success reuniting with Robert Saleh in New York this past year, setting career highs in tackles, sacks, and forced fumbles. It was nothing crazy, but it did get him a sizable contract with the Commanders. Is it enough to get him out of the bust category? Not yet, but like Becton, we can come back to this one in a year or so.
The Denver Broncos select Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Alabama.
Judge Judy, the supposed salvation of a Broncos team dying for receiving help. The second coming of Demaryius Thomas. It never really worked out like that. Judy would complain about his poor usage and bad quarterbacks. Denver accused him of having a piss-poor work ethic. Slowly rotted away to the point where he requested a trade and both sides needed a divorce. The talent is there. Someone had to tap it. Turns out it was Cleveland, with famous Jameis. Stranger things have happened in the past. It not only got Jerry to a Pro Bowl, but it more than justified the extension that the Browns gave when they traded for him. Is this a sign of things to come or just a one-year flash in the pan? I want to see more before I call him a true success. Don't let me down, Jerry.
The Atlanta Falcons select A.J. Terrell, defensive back, Clemson.
So much for the settling pick Atlanta made, eh? They couldn't get C.J. Henderson, but turns out they saved themselves in the process. A.J. Terrell turned out to be an infinitely better player. Henderson hasn't come close to being an AP All-Pro. He also hasn't come close to locking down a #1 corner spot for years, but neither has Okudah. Terrell hasn't reached All-Pro status again, but getting $65 million guaranteed is a pretty good result, don't you think?
The Dallas Cowboys select C.D. Lamb, wide receiver, Oklahoma.
Premium wide receiver? Check. An impact player that makes his presence known every time he gets the ball? Check. Getting paid a premium haul by the Cowboys for his services? You better believe it. The Cowboys have made a lot of mistakes in recent years. Drafting CD wasn't one of them. Jerry Boy loves his stars. And Lamb makes him swell with pride every time he steps on the field.
The Miami Dolphins select Austin Jackson, tackle, USC.
If there's anything to say about Austin, he's a starting offensive lineman. Is that really saying all that much? Miami's O-line's been pretty maligned in recent times. And now they've just lost their elite blindside blocker to retirement. If you follow the religion of PFF, Austin Jackson isn't exactly what we call good. Better as a run blocker, but not by much. This pick was a reach because the elite tackle options were off the board and it shows.
The Las Vegas Raiders select Damon Arnett, defensive back, Ohio State.
Want to hear something funny? The Raiders considered Arnett to be a character pick. What kind of character were they talking about? Car accidents outside of the team facility or brandishing guns on Instagram? It was a horrible overdraft that became a horrible pick faster than he ran himself out of the league. People defended the Gruden Mayock regime until they got fired. And Damon somehow lasted longer than Ruggs.
The Jacksonville Jaguars select Clavon Chason, linebacker, LSU.
This guy was supposed to be the Yannick Ngakoue replacement? In what world? One where Saxonville's still a thing? Chason barely saw the field for the Jags and was ineffective when he was out there, lingering as a depth option until his fifth-year option was declined. If it gets to the point where you're getting cut by the Panthers, not looking good for a career. At least he managed to do something with the Raiders once he got the call. He might etch out a career as a role player in New England. No wonder why David Caldwell got canned later in 2020.
The Philadelphia Eagles select Jalen Reagor, wide receiver, TCU.
Believe it or not, but there was a time when not only a majority of Philly, but the NFL world was calling for Howie Roseman's head. If you were to tell them that the guy that chose Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson would get them another ring in 5 years, they'd use your remains as cheesesteak. Philadelphia still wants Reagor dead for crimes against football. I'll give Howie credit, he at least cut his losses early on and rebounded from shit like this. The only reason why Jalen's hanging on to an NFL job is because of injuries. It certainly isn't because of his play. Don't worry, Philly, things would get better.
The Minnesota Vikings select Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU.
Philly's mistake is Minnesota's game. The Vikings needed a replacement for Stephon Diggs. They got more than that. Justin Jefferson might be the best receiver the franchise has ever had. It's between him and Randy Moss, to be honest. A game changer in more ways than one. Justin got paid like it too. You pretty much have to if you revive Sam Darnold's career like he did. The Gritties will continue well into the future.
The Los Angeles Chargers select Kenneth Murray, linebacker, Oklahoma.
Kenneth Murray's the ultimate placeholder starting linebacker. He'll play minutes, but they won't be good ones. He'll accrue a shitload of tackles, but they'll be empty ones on blown coverages. You can certainly do worse than Murray, but you can do a lot better too. 4 years in LA led to a year in Tennessee. Those defenses weren't exactly good, and he wasn't exactly a stalwart on those units. There's a reason why the Titans traded him to Dallas. Murray will have a career, but he's gonna bounce around from team to team. Not the worst outcome, to be honest. It's fine.
The New Orleans Saints select Cesar Ruiz, center, Michigan.
Ruiz is an offensive lineman. A decent one, but not a guy who's gonna compete for Pro Bowls in his time. Well, if you're looking at PFF, he's one of the worst guards in the league. Regardless, he's a starting right guard for a team that drafted him, so that should account for something. He got paid by the Saints, too. It works, I guess. For a team spinning the tires, that is.
It's alright, I guess.
The San Francisco 49ers select Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver, Arizona State.
Brandon Ayuk. Bane of Pittsburgh for reasons of San Francisco paying him the big bucks instead. I wonder if they regret doing so now. Not that Ayuk's not worth it, but you just wonder when he'll unlock the ability we all know he has on a consistent basis. The brilliance is there. He was an All-Pro in 2023. Yet Brandon vanishes for long periods of time. All of 2024 after he got paid, for an example. Before he suffered a season-ending injury. It's more on the team desperate to go all in than on Ayuk's abilities. How good can he really be? Will we ever find out? Hopefully soon.
The Green Bay Packers select Jordan Love, quarterback, Utah State.
We shat our pants in unison. The Packers picking a quarterback in the first round, with so many other holes to fill. Wasn't even a guy who dropped Aaron Rodgers style. Love needed love, and Green Bay would give it unconditional. Give them 3 years to marinate in their juices and they'll come out tender and ready to throw. 2023 made Wisconsin forget all about that Aaron Rodgers guy. Slinging the rock like no one's business. Allowing the world to laugh at the Cowboys as they beat them as the 7th seed. There's a reason why Green Bay gave him $55 million a year. They're banking on him being the next franchise QB in a long line of them. He can get there with time, but his floor is at minimum a starting caliber player. Players develop well when you give them time? Who knew?
The Seattle Seahawks select Jordan Brooks, linebacker, Texas Tech.
Jordan Brooks is the rich man's Kenneth Murray. Another addition to the placeholder starting linebacker pile. A guy who accrues a shitload of tackles but not much else. An empty calorie stack kind of guy. Like delicious candy minus the dopamine hit. There's a reason why Seattle didn't exercise his 5th-year option. So technically they traded him to the Dolphins for Jerome Baker. Yeah, we'll just say that. Fortunately, he's not good in coverage and the NFL's a pass-heavy league. It's always held him back, and it pegs him as mediocre.
The Baltimore Ravens select Patrick Queen, linebacker, LSU.
So what is Patrick Queen? Is he an excellent linebacker in his own right? Or merely the byproduct of Roquan Smith? Note that he didn't truly emerge as elite until the Ravens brought in Roquan to headline the second level. He was an All-Pro in 2023, so there is talent there. But Queen isn't the chess version of a Queen without him. The Ravens did decline his 5th-year option beforehand, but that was to the Steelers' game. Or so we thought. Last year he wasn't bad, he was Didn't really have many game-changing moments for the black and gold. But hey, even if Pittsburgh gets a false bag of goods, it worked out for Baltimore. They'll be happy with that.
The Tennessee Titans select Isaiah Wilson, tackle, Georgia.
This guy's an argument for the worst draft pick of all time. Wilson was so bad he had more arrests as a Titan than games played. The less I have to say about this complete waste of talent, the better. I made a video about him a few months ago if you're interested. Have fun making shitty rap EPs in the future with Kadarius Toney.
That was pathetic.
The Miami Dolphins select Noah Igbenogany, defensive back, Auburn.
Everyone and their mother had trouble pronouncing Noah's name on the day of the draft. During his career, he didn't do much to get people to learn it. Igbenogany never developed as a corner in Miami and is now bouncing around the league as a depth piece. He has found a role with the Commanders, so he'll hopefully keep a job for a bit, but it won't be as a headliner. For the record, the Dolphins went a symmetrical 1-1-1 on first-rounders this year.
The Minnesota Vikings select Jeff Gladney, defensive back, TCU.
Gladney's a tragic case. In his rookie year, he had an uneventful campaign. Started for the Vikings at corner, no notable issues on the field. Off of it, though, he'd be arrested for felony assault. Minnesota instantly cut him for the revelation. Now, it's a bad look for this to happen, but it should be noted that Gladney was cleared of all charges. Justice had done its due course, and Jeff was immediately snagged up by the Cardinals to continue his football career. That day would never come. He died in a car crash along with his girlfriend months later. He was at fault for the accident, but that doesn't matter in the end. Quite frankly, he never had the chance. What a shame.
The Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs select Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back, LSU.
The Super Bowl champion Chiefs gaining another offensive weapon? That's what we all thought when they drafted Edwards-Helaire. He burst onto the scene immediately as a rookie, looked to be ready to take the next step as a legit threat, and then he just vanished. Slowly fading into the wind as he was passed up by the likes of Isaiah Pacheco. It makes a lot more sense when you realize he's been fighting personal demons this whole time. PTSD, man. He says it's affected him throughout his NFL career. So while he was a flop, it was due to elements out of Clyde's control. Damn. In conclusion, 2020 was a draft. Mostly in terms of how volatile it was. Lots of flops, disappointments, and whatever the fuck Isaiah Wilson was supposed to be. But the draft was full of success stories, especially in the quarterback realm. It's very rare to get 5 straight quarterback selections that go on to be playoff starters. 4 of them are Pro Bowlers. In addition to the first rounders, there was also a guy named Jalen Hurts that went to the Eagles in the second round. A very perplexing pick at the time indeed. Turns out it was the right one to make. We just didn't realize it. This will go down as a legendary draft in that regard. Just not for Jacksonville. We call the 2017 Saints draft generational. This draft was the polar opposite for the Jags. A complete disaster on all fronts. Only 2 players remain on that team from this draft. One of them's a special teamer. About as disgusting as Ben Barch's protein shake.
So we got grits, bananas, peanut butter, scrambled eggs, and then of course you're gonna top it off with some Gatorade.
Red Gatorade.
Because why not?
Why not?
I'm gonna go puke. That, however, doesn't go for the second round. When T. Higgins starts out day 2, it's been a good day for the NFL indeed. The pick after was Michael Pittman Jr., so it merely reinforces it. Indy also managed to secure Jonathan Taylor in this draft, so even better for them in this grind. The rest of the second round bore the fruits of DeAndre Swift, Xavier McKinney, Cole Kmet, Antoine Winfield, Jalen Johnson, Trevon Diggs, Willie Gay, and Jeremy Chin. And that's merely a start of what was offered. The third round did bring some value. It started off with Logan Wilson, a solid role player on the Bengals defense, as well as Antonio Gibson of Commanders fame. The main prize, though, was Nnamdi Madubuike, a strong stalwart of the elite Ravens defensive front. Other prize winners of this round include Damian Lewis, Zach Bond, Jonah Jackson, Lloyd Cushenberry, Jonathan Grenard, and Alex Highsmith. Excellent skill to be found. In the fourth, the main hauls were 3 men. Deep threat Gabriel Davis snagged up by the Bills. L'Jarius Sneed-Feedenseek, proudly selected by the Chiefs. And Tyler Biadasz taken by Dallas with the final selection of the round. John Simpson, DJ Wanham, and Kevin Dotson were other notable picks here. The fifth round did bring us solid pieces in Colton McKivitz, Darnell Mooney, and Michael Donna. In the sixth were quality offensive linemen in Michael Onwenu and John Runyon Jr. Not to mention Tyler Bass and Jordan Fuller. For Mr. Irrelevant in this class, the Giants selected Tay Crowder from Georgia, who did go on to regularly play a few seasons for the G-Men as well as a brief stint with the Titans. The rest of the 7th round offered Cameron Curl, Jawan Jennings, and Geno Stone. But as always, there are undrafted finds to scour through. We can't be remiss if we don't mention Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley as one. Yes, the Pro Bowl still counts. You also have D. Alford, Rico Dowdle, Tommy Townsend, Ross Madisick, Tershawn Wharton, Christian Roseboom, Juwan Johnson, Bryce Huff, and Aaron Brewer, among others. And there you have what was the 2020 NFL Draft. If we have to go back to living like that again, we riot.
Remember, they had success with Landon Collins in the 2nd round a few years ago, but there you see a canine resemblance for Bill Belichick, the Patriots head coach, and Nick Caserio, the director of player personnel. The Patriots are finally participating in the draft process. Let's see where they go.